Hey everybody, I'm not childish. I'm at a higher level of immaturity. And in fact, um, well, I lost it. There we go. Yeah, I'm not prepared. I'm not childish. I'm childishly mature. I'm not childish. I'm a mature child. I'm not childish. I'm adultish. I'm not childish. I'm mature childish. I'm not childish. I'm at a higher level of childish. I'm not childish. I'm less immature. I just thought one day, were there any other ways to express my statement? And so, anyway, that was my answer to it. It was kind of funny. There are more ways to say that you're immature, but you're at a higher level of understanding and maturity. So I titled this one Life because I guess I want to get some things out of the way. This is obviously my own opinion of things. However, they're based on actual experiences and not just my own, but others through history. Um, so what is life? Why are we here? What's our purpose in the end, ultimately? Most of us live for ourselves, and it's very hard not to. In fact, life sucks you into it. It almost feels like you're forced to do certain things, whether you're interested in them or not. Or it's the only way you know. My understanding of life is based on God's reasoning. Now, do I know God? Yes, I do. Um, do I understand Him? No, I don't. I know through my own experiences that He's proven to me that the Bible truly is 100% true. Now, before you turn me off, I'm not trying to save you. That's between you and God. All I'm going to talk to you about is a more, what I think, realistic view of life. One of the first things I want to kind of dispel is the idea that we can save the world. That through time and becoming more knowledgeable, that we'll become better people. And by being better people, ultimately one day, everything will be perfect. We will have a utopia. Not only is that not ever going to happen, but just the opposite. And I believe that for two reasons. One, it says so in the Bible. We're just, you know, um, not going to do that ultimately we're going to have some type of a war, and we're going to trust one individual, and we're not going to call him Christ, and he's going to lead us down the wrong path. You can take many different views of that, but it's not important which view actually is the one that happens. It's important that it actually will happen, just like everything else that's been stated in the Bible and now is slowly becomes proven that it really happened, that things really did exist that we used to say didn't. So I know that we're going to, we'll say, destroy ourselves. And what's my second reason? Look at history. We always think we're smarter than what we are. We think, as individuals, that we have the perfect answer. We have all kinds of different types of government philosophies, I should say, government philosophies. And none of them have ever worked. And yet in that area, we've had the same intelligence, thousands of years before as we have now. And we still can't get it right. We really shoot down communism and socialism, and they don't work. There's no doubt they don't. The fact is we don't take into consideration that humans are running it, and as soon as the ball is passed to the next generation or the next group, there's something that goes wrong because they don't see and interpret the idea the same. The fact is we also have people that are just downright greedy and power hungry and thrive on that idea. And so because they're like that, they destroy any ideas that we have about, these types of governments working. Because they push themselves to get into power, and then they corrupt everything. Maybe communism would work if it had a perfect leader, but there is no perfect leader because we're all humans. And humans are naturally flawed. Why are we flawed? Well, the Bible tells us why. Because we didn't listen to God to start with. And yes, Eve ate the fruit. She offers it to her husband. He follows her rather than God. He's just as much at fault, and the whole thing starts. No matter what we do, we solve one problem, we create 10 more. Now, it keeps us busy. It's nice to have something to do while we're here, but that wasn't his plan. Well, it might be his plan. Maybe he realized that he had to sort the wheat from the chaff. Maybe he realized that his own creation, to be what his goal was for it, he had to allow there to be bad as well as good. So the people had a choice, because he wasn't looking for people to say they loved him. He was looking for people who did love him. respected his ways, trusted him. That's not what we do. Now we can see it in our own country. The United States is going through a phase, and it'll be that maybe this is it. Maybe this is the final chapter. But obviously, our government, and you know I can't even think right now what to call it, but capitalism is not working properly. We have people who want to help everybody else and yet neglect their own. And the funny thing is, I was raised that way. My father, for some reason, could help anybody else. No questions asked. But his own children, he ignored. He criticized, in fact, even when we did good. Which kind of proved to me that, showed me that humans are flawed. I don't want to say he's a bad person. I know how he was raised, in a way, at least parts of it. And so I give that as part of the reason for the way he looked at things. My mother really wasn't that great a parent either. She kind of followed her mother's ways, but in a more business-like manner, and it didn't bring us to the understanding of what love is. Now, I don't think she was shown that very much either, so she couldn't pass on something she didn't have. And I say that, but yes, she could have had God put her in the situation where she could learn about emotions and affection sooner in her life. Had she learned, while we were children, it would have been a big help. I don't think she learned really till late in life. And that was partially because she took a serious interest in trying to understand God. As a Christian, our job isn't really to try to save the world, because first off, it's not going to be saved. And secondly, we cannot force you meaning anybody who's not truly committing themselves to Christianity, we can't force you to be Christians. And I don't want a bunch of people who feel obligated to follow beliefs that I have. And in fact, God says not to. God says, prove it to yourself. Prove that what he's saying is true. And so I can't force you. I can't force my 3 children. And I don't. And none of them right now are exactly on the right path. However, God does promise that if they've committed their lives to Christ, that they will come around. And when, I don't know. I mean, they're in their 30s. I love them unconditionally. I don't care what they do. I might be, well, in fact, at this point, because of their age, I don't even get mad when I hear something that they've done wrong. There's no reason to. That's not my job. I'm going to tell them that I love them. And that's what God does for us. He's the perfect example. He punishes us, though. And, sometimes I feel like that's what I'm getting, is punishment. But then on the other hand, he doesn't promise us an easy life. And frankly, when it's easy, we get lost. We start counting on and worshiping things that we shouldn't. Money being the biggest one. If you have a lot of money, there's this thing that makes you want more. And that's not what we're here for. And all logic in the world says that, what are you going to do with it? You're dying. Every one of us is going to die. And what will that money do for us then? We need to be honest people. We need to give when we can. We need to express our honesty. We need to reach out to people and hopefully be of some kind of a good example that other people question why we're like we are. Now, the funny thing is even though I know these things, I can't say that I'm that great a person. I mean, I don't just fall short in small ways. I fall short in big ways. I have a wife that doesn't understand Christianity. And so I should be a good example for her. But in reality, there are times when I'm not even God has got to be ashamed of me. Really, he has to. I have to be asking for forgiveness for things I say to her. Well, I'm actually going to give you 2 examples. My wife calls me up and asks if I'm going to help her when her mother comes from Russia. Now, her mother doesn't speak any English, but I felt insulted because she said that or even asked that. Why? Well, first off, I've constantly said that her mother needs to come here. Not just to her, but to her mother. And I let her know that, that I want her here. In fact, I really want her here permanently. I think it would be best for her, and it's just terrible in my mind that there's a lady over in Russia who basically has one family member, her sister, that's alive, that she can communicate with. They don't live close to each other, so they can't hang around together. And her daughter is everything to her. So I want her here. So anyway, she insults me by asking if I'm going to be assisting in this. I just can't believe it. I could not believe it. And in the conversation, I finally said, I can't believe you're so dumb that you would ask me a question like that. How helpful was that statement? It wasn't. Now, that maybe sounds like a simple thing, but the way I said it, I mean, there was anger, there was contempt for her. I sent all the messages I wanted to send, but of course, they were counterproductive. How much would she want to be a Christian when I'm saying things like that? Another time, now this one I struggle with because she does have a problem with thinking about herself too much. But She took this person's parking space at work, and she knew another person always parked there. But it was a good space for her, and she got there earlier, so she started using it. So now it's hers. And she thinks it's funny that she took this other person's space. Well, one day we were discussing where I bought a car, where I'm going to park it, because there's not any place to park in our development. And she says, well, you can just park here. I said, no, I can't. Somebody else already parks there. Well, so what? It's not a designated space. I said, yeah, but, they've already got their space. I said, and then she suggested, I said, look, I said, I'm not a prick like you are. And she didn't know what that meant, but her friends told her. And so she was furious with me. And I think she probably should have been. Regardless of how I feel, I need to present myself properly. I need to control my emotions even when no one else is. Now, does God forgive me? Yes, He forgives me. Because I'm asking for forgiveness, and He's teaching me to be a better person. That's a lot of the reason that I was inspired to say I'm not childish. I'm at a higher level of immaturity. I'm never going to be mature. I'm never going to be a perfect Christian. And neither will anyone else. But our message should be to people that it's the only way out of this world and into one that's going to actually be forever. That will be a utopia. I talked about governments, different styles. Capitalism, that's what we are. It works to a degree, but right now you can see that after being nice to each other and trying to get along, we all finally have had enough. And so we're now picking sides and standing our ground, and now we gotta shithole ourselves. It's what it is for now. Maybe it'll get better again. I thought back in the 60s and 70s that we were going to, see Christ's return. But somehow we started gelling back together for a while and being good people. And then our government goes corrupt, which it always was, but now it's really bad. Right now, you can't trust anybody anywhere in the government. In fact, you really hardly can trust anybody, period. You pretty much, and in a lot of cases, it's not because they're mean people. They just don't do what they say they're going to do. That's just all there is to it, and they don't feel they feel no commitment. They don't feel remorse for failing to do what they promise. That's one of the things God cannot accept. He understands that we come short, but he can't accept a person that says to him, if you do this for me, I'll be such and such, and then not do it. He himself knows that he has a commitment that he's made, and then he's going to have to follow through with it. He doesn't have to, but he made the commitment. He said he would. And it'll be to all our benefits for those who believe him and trust him. Now, the perfect government. I can tell you what the perfect government is. It is a government like a dictatorship, where one person is head of the whole situation. The problem with it is that no human can take that position. And the reason is because we're flawed. No matter how honest a person we are when we get that position, we will abuse it by the time we die. And if we don't, the next person will. Guaranteed. And in several generations, if we get that far, it'll be total chaos. And that's because we become greedy, we become self-centered, we lose touch with what the reality really is. And we've done that even now. Our country prospers too much. And so we lose contact with reality. And I'm talking about on the lowest level. Not high up in the government, down low. I mean, regular people out on the street just are too self-centered. It's not all just their fault. It's just the way things are. But if we had a dictator that was for the people, that loved people, that made decisions not for the smallest of groups, but for the largest of groups, and found a balance to assisting those in need, truly in need, not people who take advantage of the system, that is going to be the perfect government. And guess what? That's God's plan. Christ will return, and he will be head of that government. And he is the only one that can stay true to his word. We're not capable. We are flawed. And so, there's where our hope lies. And there's not much more to say about it. He has his hands open. He's asking for you. He's led you all through your life, and whether you like it or not, and sins and death of people and all that, they are just excuses to keep you away. Once you realize and understand God, nobody has passed away in vain. We're all here for a reason, and he loves every one of us. Thank you for your time.